dispute about chartered men in the Second World War for on your mind too they have on these chartered people people from Germany or maybe from the other countries also, because Ukrainians people are also included in this chartered.
What do you mean by charged? I'm sorry.
It's a question about guilt.
Yeah, guilty people.
Who is guilty in the Second World War for French people? It's only Germans, or maybe it's Italians, or some sort of...
No, it's everyone. It's everyone. After 1945, there was a very strong work on history, which is something actually that, being a Western European, I'm very proud of. I'm not proud of everything that happens in Western Europe, but this I'm very proud. We do basically agree that I mean, historiography as such states that the situation in the 1930s was a disaster all across Europe, and that it led to serious consequences, namely the rise of fascism in Italy, the rise of Nazism in Germany, and then Second World War and the Shoah and everything like that. So in that sense, everyone is guilty. French people also do have this strong feeling of guilt for themselves, because there was the Munich Conference. France did not save Czechoslovakia, did not come to save Poland as it should have been. It should have done according to the alliances and so on and so on. And then when Germany invaded France, there was a fascist-friendly government which ruled France for a few years. So in that sense, well, of course, Nazis were the first ones to blame, and they are the ones who actually invaded the rest of Europe, and they are the ones who killed, well, that many people. But the feeling of guilt is very much shared. Next thing I would like to say is that thanks to this work on history, now we do, as a collective phenomenon, we do manage to look back to the past, to acknowledge the mistakes, to acknowledge the pain, and to move on. And now you wouldn't find French, Belgian, Spanish, or Dutch people who would consider Germans as Nazis. Well, of course you have some extreme people, but as everywhere. But that's the thing. And this is the one thing I'm very proud of. And this is not something I see here in Ukraine, that the work on history between UPA, between partisan, and the role of the Soviet regime and everything, well, it has not been investigated, it has not been studied, and I don't see it in the school programs yet.
Okay, next question about bureaucracy. Why French bureaucrat write letter for language asked in English in French? Okay, maybe.
I will give a little preview of this, because we had a lecture of the a lecture in the Kiev-Mohyla Academy from the ambassador of France, and he was talking about how French is spread and how French should be spread more around the world, and how it's important to know French.
Translate.
So the question is why French bureaucrats usually answered for orators in French, but not in the English that someone talked to him. It's quite strange, but...
It's a very interesting question. Well, there is one answer that many people wouldn't want to acknowledge, but it's just ignorance. Many French people don't know English. Many French people don't know foreign languages. Because France, as a former universal power, which used to rule quite
imperial power.
Yeah, imperial power, but also universal empire in the sense of values. The French Revolution, the human rights, the freedom of press. The first newspapers were printed in what is now France, for example. So this is a country which has this complex of being formally huge and extremely important, and the French language used to be spread to all corners of the planet, to all sides of it, which is not the case anymore. And as a collective phenomenon, there is still this complex. There is still this very strong problem, and this is something that you can feel, well, with the bureaucrats, with the politicians, with the school programs, and everything. Basically, and I remember it very well when I used to study foreign languages in school. Basically, you had these teachers who were coming to students and giving some kind of creepy lecture and saying, anyway you speak French, you'll be fine. You just have to take this German course and you just have to take this English course, but that's because it's in the curriculum, it's EU requirement or something like this.
Same as Ukraine.
Yeah, in some sense, yeah. Because France, in that sense, is on the same level as Britain, as Spain, in some sense as Italy, and well, also Russia a bit, which as internationally spread languages, they do have this this pretension not to speak anything else. And I'm really sorry that the ambassador was.
It was funny. And I have a question about media. Do you feel some changes in how media works in the France after election and after new president Hollande came?
Socialist.
No, not really. Not really. No. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, there was one big difference is that Nicolas Sarkozy used to be the favorite of the media for quite a long time because he was giving a lot of sensational news. Yeah, and he was giving a lot of clear pictures, nice quotes, and everything like that. So the media actually loved him because every time you go to see Sarkozy, you're sure you have a story, which with François Hollande is not the case anymore at all. So but I mean, yeah, he used to be the favorite for quite a long time, but then at some point the media started to hate him because, well, Nicolas Sarkozy turned really much right-wing. He made friends with a lot of, he befriended a lot of ideas from the Front National, extreme right-wing, and that started to be unacceptable for a lot of people. So there was a kind of tension that you could feel in the media coverage, in the news coverage. And since François Hollande is here, at least you don't have this tension anymore. But on the way it worked, and on the flexibility and the freedom that editors have, we didn't have any kind of impact.
And it's quite old story, but what do you think about Gerard Depardieu act that he came to
Chechnya?
Russia?
Not Russia, Chechnya.
Are you really sure I'm the most qualified?
Interesting to listen.
We saw Instagram of Ramzan Kadyrov and.
Well, if you want my opinion, it's a sad individual story. Depardieu has a lot of health problems with alcohol, and many other things, and also he had a lot of tragedies in his family, and there is something clearly not going right. And he did what he did. I think it doesn't tell anything, absolutely anything, about the state of France as such.
Next question. Bahdar Kavaliu asks you, what is your impression about Google Fest? Do you like it or?
Well, of course. I mean, what kind of answer do you want from me? I loved it.
That's all I think.
I loved it. Last year was my first time. Last year I really had a blast, and it was very important for me, a very important event for me. Sorry, and spent some time discovering the Darhabaha and the daughters, and also hanging out in the former factory and so on. It was fantastic. I didn't really have the same feeling this year, although I loved it, as I said, but it was not as intensive because of the weather and maybe because of the program or something like this, but nevertheless it was interesting enough.
And do you enjoy Ukrainian contemporary art, so as a Pinchuk Art Center show?
Well, as far as I understand, Pinchuk, I usually go to Mściecki Arsenal because there is slightly more indigenous and more interesting. Pinchuk is interesting because it's for free and it's in the city center, but what Pinchuk does is that he imports art. I have not really seen anything Ukrainian or from the CEI countries, for example. Usually he imports art from different places, and in that sense I'm not really interested, because usually these are exhibitions that I have seen elsewhere, and well, I don't have the feeling that Pinchuk Art Center is a big leap forward in the Ukrainian cultural scene.
Okay, about Ukrainian agrarian business, what Ukrainians need for the upgrading, or what is important in France for agrarian experience of France agrarian business in agriculture? No, it's about agrarian business, not agriculture. Not about the vegetables. What is the difference between Ukrainian and France agrarian business, if you know?
Yeah, it's totally different. It's two different worlds. These are among the most agricultural countries in Europe. Yeah, France, big agricultural country. Ukraine, former grain basket of Europe, as it said. When we talk about Ukrainian agriculture and agrarian business, we talk about a potential, basically. Well, we talk about potential for many things that comes to Ukraine, but when it comes to agriculture, it's really this, which means that it's not exploited. It's not exploited, and there are some Western farmers who are settled in Ukraine. Some of them are French, some Dutch, some Swiss, some German, and so on. Who struggle quite a lot because the resources are very, very good. The weather, the climate, the soil, the Chernozem is excellent, but it's just that the structures of production, the structures of distribution, and the legislative framework are not adequate at all. For example, giving just a few examples. In France, the state sponsors quite many farmers, of course through the EU helps, EU benefits, which are quite massive. But for example, you have something that doesn't cost that much. A farmer can go to a bank and get a credit for almost nothing, because the government told the bank, well, this credit is going to be on a flat rate, so on. And the farmer gets the money, invests the money, and then he has something like 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the conditions, to start reimbursing. In Ukraine, farmers, well, they don't get that kind of possibility, and usually when they want to go to the bank and ask for money which is very necessary for investing, well, it's a rate which is what, 9, 10, 11%, and they have to start reimbursing very quick. So that kind of things. I don't really have the feeling that the state sponsors agriculture as such, which is explainable by many factors. We all know that agrarian business means oligarchic business, and well, who would like to contradict the interest of the oligarchs?
The last question from Yaroslav Denisenko. He is asking, could you mark some features of the stereotype of modern French men in 21st century?
Maybe stereotypical Frenchman.
Pictures of stereotype.
Yeah.
It's funny. He's the...
No, I'm not going to answer to this one. I'm sorry, I hate stereotypes. As a journalist in Ukraine, I try to fight against stereotypes.
Yep.
So I'm not going to answer this one.
Okay.
I can be funny in many different ways, but not this one.
So
Thank you.
that's all. What
Yeah?
I have.
Okay, well, thank you very much.